What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Res Podcast. Today is a fun episode because we got our friends from Spotfilm Co. on today's podcast, Hunter and Mikaela Phillips. They are awesome people and phenomenal business owners. And they're a husband and wife team.
Yep.
And Hunter started this business years ago, and Mikaela has recently jumped in with him. So if you are at all interested in ever working with your spouse, this is going to be a great episode. But even more than that, we talked about a lot of pricing, offers.
We talked about so many cool things. Like if you're someone who's like, I feel like I'm working way too hard for way too little, or I'm only charging hourly, or I'm charging day rates, you are going to be, I think, your interest will be piqued during this podcast of what life could look like differently. They talk about their story of feeling like in 2023, they worked more than ever before. They were stressed more than ever before. And yet their revenue wasn't matching that. And then fast forward to now, celebrating a year where they're hitting 20K months. They're hitting really, really cool revenue numbers. And yet they're like, this is the least stressed we've ever been about our business, which is awesome. They're not overworking themselves. It's super, super cool. So we talk about offers, pricing, all of that good stuff. You're going to love this episode.
Yeah, so
one
much
of my
more.
favorite guest episodes we've ever
Yeah,
had.
this was one of our favorite guest episodes too. This is a quick reminder, guys, if you're not watching on YouTube or on Spotify, those are the two platforms you can actually watch the podcast. You probably should. I'm an Apple Podcast guy, but I'm really starting to struggle to not get torn and brought over to like full-time Spotify
You
because
also will want to watch the video of this because we talk about some things at the beginning that you just gotta be there visually for.
yeah.
I want your opinion on
I
this.
hope you go and watch this, whether it's on YouTube or YouTube's starting to get a little bit more I'm gonna say traction. It's great to see you guys over there.
Yes.
Of course, Spotify's going strong. Apple Podcasts is going strong. But I would love for you guys to, if you're a visual person, get to watch this on video. So YouTube or Spotify, you want to watch on video, go on over and watch that. But huge shout out to them. This is one of our favorite guest episodes. I think it was just super fun, flowed really well.
Yeah.
And most importantly, they had so much value to talk about. So big shout out to Hunter and Mikaela.
Yeah.
And this is a big week at Creative Res. This is a fun episode to release this week.
Yeah.
But we are recording this as of Monday night, and this is going to come out on Tuesday tomorrow. And Wednesday we have we've been prepping for
if
weeks.
you're listening to this before February 26th, Wednesday, before, and you are not currently signed up for the 10K per month creator workshop, sign up. It's totally free. We're so excited to see the community there at 4:30 p.m. PST on Wednesday. If this is 3:30 on Wednesday, you can still sign up. Jump over to creativerise.com/workshop and claim a spot right there. We actually had to buy more Zoom room.
Which is like the amount of people you can have on a Zoom call because there's so many of you guys that are signed up.
So
which is awesome.
An absolute blast.
We can't wait. And even better, coming up the following, not this week, but the next week is when Mastermind applications go live, which you'll hear about a little bit in this episode. Hunter and Mikaela went through the Mastermind. March 2nd is the next launch of the 6-week Creative Res Mastermind, which is awesome. There's a lot of you guys that have been waiting months for this. If you're new to Creative Rise, 6-week Mastermind is simply a 6-week program that we take people through, focused on coaching, community, and accountability, where we help you build and implement a 6-figure business foundation into what you're doing, whether you're a photographer, a filmmaker, or a social media manager in the brand space or in the wedding space. It's a lot of fun. We've been doing it for 5 years, innovating on it. It's epic. It gets people epic results because of a couple of different ways that it's structured. We're really excited about it. So all the info for that at creativeres.com. If you listen to the pod for a while, you know all about it. And so you should probably head on over to creativeres.com and go check it out because it's going to be awesome. The wait list is I was going to say the wait list is thick.
It is
there's a lot of people that are really excited and waiting on the wait list for those applications to go live. So if you're listening before that, come jump on the wait list. Go to creativehouse.com. You can jump on the wait list there. That way you can be the first to get notified when we release the early application to all the waitlisters. And other than that, the open application is going to be March 2nd. But lots of fun stuff going around.
16th.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on in the world of Creative Rise. But this episode should be something that's very important on your calendar this week because there is so much value in it. So here is our conversation with Hunter and Mikaela from Sweet Spot Films. Go check it out. Hunter and Mikaela, welcome to the pod. We're split right down the middle in how we hold mics. The girls are holding the stub. I'm going to call it the stub of the mic, where the boys are holding the proper way. If you're watching,
no.
Before you even get any further in this video, just throw a little comment in there. How would you hold this mic from the actual mount or
why do we get the term nub and you get the term mount?
It's the stub. Guys, welcome to the show.
This is the proper way to do this, by the way, just FYI.
This is the what?
This is the proper way.
Okay.
That's like drinking out of a straw. It's
Well,
not good.
For the third time,
It's
welcome
not
to the show, you guys. We're so
for having
glad.
us.
We're so glad to have you guys on.
Casual,
You
obviously.
guys have an awesome story about building your video business, content agency, going all in on Sweet Spot together. Before we do, a little bit of rapid fire. Names, where you're from, and what your business is.
You want to start us off?
Yeah, my name's Mikaela Phillips. I live in Auburn, California with my husband Hunter, and we run a video production content agency getting into brand strategy space right now. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm Hunter Phillips, and yeah, Auburn, born and raised in like the Sacramento area, and then we've kind of been all around Northern California with our agency, and then now we're back up here in Auburn. So yeah,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just returned from the Bay. You guys have been in the Bay for how long? Are you guys in the Bay?
we were
Almost,
in the
almost 3 years?
almost 3 years.
Almost
yeah.
3 years.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
In
you
the
guys have
big
got
city.
a lot of work spread across Northern California. Lots in the
Yeah.
Bay, lots in wine country,
Yes.
stuff up here, which is really cool. When did you guys start? When did you start Sweet Spot?
Yeah, I started, like, if we go back from when I like picked up a camera, it was about 12 years ago, just working with one of my friends who got a job at a church, and he just wanted to hang out with me, so I tagged along with him, and then he kind of just taught me the ropes, and then from there, I just started working in different production agencies, and then really enjoyed it, but really wanted to kind of jump into telling people's story, like being able to work with those people and not just have to be someone who is working for someone else. So
You got the bug.
I got the bug.
You
yeah.
got the bug.
Yeah, he got the bug a year into marriage.
Yeah, it was a year into marriage. That's true. Yeah.
Let's
Mhm.
go.
big
Let's
change
go.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big theme
Don't worry,
is
babe, I got a
she's
stable
yeah.
job. You're good. And then switches up. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So then we went on, or I guess I went on my own in 2019, and then
Cool.
the rest is history. Yeah.
I love it. And here you guys are.
And Mikaela, what's the story of you joining? Just real quick for people listening. We know the
Yeah.
story, but what's the story of you jumping on in?
I have always been a part of it. That's because that's what marriage is. But I just wanted to be able to have a flexible life, really.
Yeah.
And this really provides that. And I saw where I could just like meet the needs of the company and complement Hunter's strengths. And so it's only been a few months since I've been full time, but I would say the last 6 months our business has massively grown, and I can give myself a little bit
Yeah,
of credit
thanks
for
to you.
that.
Absolutely. The dream
Well,
team. The dream team.
We joke around. This has been said before on the podcast, but women are the superior race. So,
So
and
we
anytime.
do hold mics correct.
So what
Other
you're
than how you
saying
hold microphones.
is
So not surprising that you jumping on in has been awesome to what he had already been, doing so well. So, when was the actual start date of you jumping in? What month was it again?
It was right after the mastermind, at the end of the mastermind.
Yeah,
Was
so
that
like would have been like late October,
Late
I think.
October.
Yeah. So Hunter, my first question, actually, before we get into that, you guys got a flop?
Yeah, what's
then we'll
your
go into
flop
that.
story? What's a story that's going to make you look nice and dumb so that when everyone's
12
all impressed,
12 years,
you're,
Hunter,
you're
you gotta have
also
something good.
realistic
I got
to
plenty.
people?
We were talking
Excited
about this
about
question,
what
and
you
I was
said.
like, well, there's plenty, but I guess I'll go more recent. Like, it was literally last month. I work with a lot of like international like production companies who like come and like, especially living in the city, they like can't fly out to San Francisco, so then they would hire me to do some of their video work. And this guy, I've worked with him a lot, and like he's from Israel, so different time change and everything, different, like I think it's 11 hours, 12 hours difference.
Yeah.
So anyways, drive from San Francisco all the way up to Folsom, California, which is like a 2.5, almost 3 hour drive. And I set up everything. Interview looks great. He's on a Zoom. He's like, this looks amazing. Yeah, great. He's like, all right, I'm going to jump off and call me in like 5 minutes once the client gets here and we can start the interview. So the client gets here, sits down in the chair, and I'm like, all right, you ready to go? And I press record, and it's like, no media attached. And I was like, oh, no. I left all of my memory cards in San Francisco, and the interview was supposed to start in like 15 minutes.
Oh, no.
So I literally, without even talking to the production agency, I literally jumped in my car and just started driving. I'm like, I guess this is the only thing I can do. And it was like an early one. So it was like 6 a.m. Nothing's open. I can't go to like Best Buy or anything like that.
Oh
So I'm like,
Oh.
I think I have to drive all the way back to San Francisco right now. So I drove all the way back.
Just San Fran?
Yeah. And
He was so delusional.
got-
Wait a
I was
second,
like, you
wait a
have
second.
friends here,
Yeah,
Hunter.
you've
what
got,
are you
like,
gonna
you
say?
know all
We
these
could have
people in
given
the
you
Folsom
some.
area.
We could have given
I
you
would have
memory
given you
cards.
SD cards.
it was one of those
Delusional.
delusional moments where I'm like, this is the only option. I have to drive back right now. And so I just
Oh
made
my
the decision,
goodness.
drove back. The guy calls me. He's like, where are you? And I'm like, I forgot all my memory cards. I'll be back in an hour. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be back in an hour. But anyways, long story short, I
was
made
so
record
chill.
time. I got back
Yeah.
in probably like 2.5 hours, no traffic, which was good. And then the interview started late, but everything went great. We got the interview done. The person who I was interviewing was very gracious with me.
Oh.
But yeah,
Dude.
it looked great and
Everyone
everything
was like,
worked out.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like,
We love it. The
Yeah.
interview looks great.
The flop is
We
not
get it.
even forgetting the memory cards. The flop is being
Yeah,
like the
go-
only option is to drive to San Francisco.
I could have driven. You probably drove through like 5 California cities. You probably know people
Yeah.
in. That you could,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every county.
You know
At
what?
least.
But that's a person that gets it done.
Yeah.
You know what
Hey,
I'm
we
saying?
appreciate
That's a
getting it
person
done.
that
Yeah,
gets
we'll
it
take
done.
Michaela, do
I
you have
love
anything
it.
to top that? Dude, that
I
might
know
be
you've
one of
only
the best
been in the
ones we've
business
heard on
for a
the
few
podcast.
months, but
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. I will say, like, yeah. Hunter, I feel like I've added resourcefulness to our
Yes, definitely.
She's like, I have helped stop some
I'm
flops.
I have a little bit more conflict resolution, centered rather than I just gotta get it done myself.
I gotta
Just get it done.
done.
Get in the car and get
Oh,
get on the
that's
gas
great.
Yeah,
pedal.
I will say, like, a flop that we no longer, like, what we used to regularly flop on that we don't anymore because of the mastermind is getting deposits in and
Mm.
contracts. And
I love that.
yeah,
Okay, we're gonna need to dive into that because that's.
Yeah.
I feel like
okay.
some
A
people
general
are flopping
theme.
right now in some of those deposits.
Yeah,
And
let's
getting
get into that
cash.
real quick before we get into more of the backstory on you guys getting together and work and all that stuff. What do you mean by flop on deposits? Because this is a your company's called Sweet Spot. This is a like tough spot. This is
Yeah,
not
it's
a
this is not
tough
a sweet spot
spot. This is
for a
our
lot of
weak
people.
spot.
This is a weak spot for a lot of people. When you say we have some flops on getting deposits, it sounds like there's some stories there of not getting paid, I'm assuming.
yeah. I mean, we're just at the tail end of experiencing that right now with a client that we will never work with again. But yeah, it was one of my first like client acquisitions, really, of like being a part of Sweet Spot, and it was a pretty big project. It was like a 6K project, really fun product shoot, and we just at this point had always been good faith, never had contracts signed, like never did deposits, and so yeah, we like had, but it was a travel project. Hunter went to multiple states to do this, all on our own
Wow.
dime.
Wow.
And there was a few points where they were like, we can just pay you right now. Like it's no, and I don't know why we were, it was just, it's again, because it's an international client. There was just a few things we're like, we were just a little weird about. And so we were like, it's all good. Like just pay us when the project's complete. And so yeah, a few months later, January, they're like, we've gone through 2 different employees now because they've laid our original contacts off. And they're literally across the world, so you have to speak with them like at 10 p.m. at night. It's just really difficult to be in contact with them. And they're like, sorry, having cash flow issues. We can send you product trade. And we're like,
Oh.
Product trade. Wow.
You're like, are you sending me the whole warehouse?
literally, no, for real. So we took a major loss, and it's all good. And
Oh my
we're gonna
gosh.
make at least what we spent on the project back, and it's
That's
all good.
painful.
But yeah,
Painful.
big learning lessons.
Painful
for us,
experiences.
for sure.
So what do you do now? Like when you're getting hired by a client, what's your deposit look like? What's the flow look like? What's the contract
Yeah.
look like?
So the flow now, and like we're going to get into systems later for sure in the pod, because that's been a huge thing for us. But along the client journey, once they're like, yep, we want to work with you, we're like, great, here's a contract and a deposit. Like immediately once they agree to work with us, and we'll do like a 50% upfront.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Yeah,
And
It's great.
50% for a lot of people hearing that, they go 50%. That's crazy. What's your reasoning behind 50%?
Well, a lot of times we're putting a lot of money up front, whether it's travel or whatever. We're doing a lot of prep work too, all of the pre-production work, the creative work that you're doing with the client before production day. And so before, I just never like valued that monetarily, and now I'm like, no, like to be honest, I would say more than 50% of the value of what we do
Absolutely.
and what we offer is done before a shoot day.
Yeah, it's pre-production stuff.
It's
Yeah,
all the
So
pre-production
good.
stuff.
totally.
That's great.
So if
That's
you're
great.
if you're listening and you're thinking that's crazy, how could I could never find the courage to like ask for 50%, because I know a lot of creatives feel that. I know I felt that years ago. I was like, yeah, like $50, or give me $100 deposit or something to lock in a date. But what you're now saying, and this is what we've been doing I've been doing this for probably like 7 or 8 years now as well, the 50% at minimum. You're saying if you want us to commit to this and take a date off our calendar and start doing the prep, we need a commitment from you guys as well, right? So 50% is pretty much what that looks like. And if projects get really, really big, sometimes I'll scale it down to like 25% if it's like a multi five-figure job. But that is so important. And that's a great piece of value to start the podcast with off of a very sad story. So I'm sorry that's happened to you guys. But I'm glad you guys are like, we're sailing past it.
Yep.
Yeah,
We're going to move
lessons.
on.
It's
Yeah.
part of the journey of owning a business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, let's dive a little bit more into your guys' story of kind of jumping in, working together. Hunter, you started going full-time in 2019, correct?
Yes.
That was when you went full-time.
Mhm.
Talk to us about, even just like if we go back like 2 years, what was like revenue looking like for you guys? I know you were working solo at that time. What did business feel like back then?
Yeah, it's funny. Business felt like I was running 120 miles an hour, and we were just kind of barely making it, like trying to like, well, should I go back and get like a part-time job somewhere and like
Yeah.
figure out and like do half in, half out. And so I feel like honestly from when I started in 2019 up until honestly when we did the mastermind, it was like, or maybe a little bit before when we like decided to invest in the mastermind, but it was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, will this be the thing? Will it not be the thing? Because it just was never like, I was never seeing those big clients, big projects. And it was just felt like I don't even know how to do it. And so I think that was a big piece of like, which Mikaela helped a ton with. And she was like the number one person to get us to do the mastermind. And like, it's always been her like MO to just be like pushing you to get to the next level, make you like the greatest person you can be.
Super cool.
Yeah, and it's a great partnership, and yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that? But
This is going to be like a 40-minute conversation pumping up Mikaela.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Which is awesome. That's so cool.
That's
so
awesome.
it sounded like from what you're saying, your business model prior to you guys deciding to go all in together, and at that same kind of point, was when you guys jumped onto the mastermind. It sounded like prior to that, you were working out of more, would you say, like a reactive business model where you were just kind of waiting, putting yourself out there in the ways that you were,
Yeah,
but you were more
made
reacting to business coming. Is that a good descriptor?
What made it feel
definitely.
stressful back then?
I think it was that. It was mostly like just like, yeah, some months it would be like, oh, there's a lot coming in, and then some months it would just be like, there's nothing, or like you'd work really hard and have no time to outreach, and then like so once all of the projects were done, you had nothing lined up for the next few months. And so yeah, it was super reactionary. It was very much so like
We were just pricing ourselves really
yeah.
low. I think that's part of the industry. It can feel so isolating and gatekeepy.
Yeah.
And like you don't really know how much you should charge for things or what the industry standard is, because there's not really until you get to talking to other creatives and you're like, oh, okay, cool. This feels
You're like, I was massively undercharging.
So that's what it was. Like he was super busy, but not charging enough, or like saying yes to jobs that were like way below skill level. Like you're just saying yes to everything, no matter what the budget was.
Which is super common, right? Because you're like, I'm trying to get stuff going,
for sure.
And if you got nothing on the calendar, it's like,
yeah,
we might as well
just
say
yes.
yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what added to like the pricing thing again, where it goes back to like every time something came in, I'm like, okay, what's like the lowest I can charge? I know they'll say yes to this.
Yeah.
And so that I will know I'm getting this job. That was like the probably
I
one of
didn't
the
really
biggest.
understand the value I think we were bringing. It was super reactionary.
Why don't we sit there for a second? Because that what you just said, Hunter, is a really, really good point. Is people are either living in the headspace of what do I need to do to claw every way I can to get this deal versus like, how do I position myself as really valuable to this deal, and if they want that value they can hire me, but if not, that's kind of okay. Those are two very different places to live, and often we don't actually live like maybe actually the best way is not to live fully on either side of that, but live in like kind of a hybrid.
Yeah.
Where you obviously go after deals and you want them, but at the same time you don't chase them to the point where you're just getting into the race to the bottom, we've asked the question why a lot, but like why do you think it was natural for you? Because I think everyone does this, including myself. I had a deal last month, that a pretty big deal that I was trying to sell. And I had that exact same thought. Do I price this in a way where it's a guaranteed yes, or I take the risk and, do the way more risky thing and try and price this for the value it actually is, and potentially have to go through like a rigorous sales process, put in all this work and maybe lose the deal? Which one of those two would I want? And that's a scary decision. What was that like? Like, what was your thought process in that most days? Because it sounded like that was what you were probably living in. Did you ever think about, like, should I just triple the price and do it? Or were you like, no, I don't think I could do that?
Yeah, it's funny. It was like the only time that I would do that was when it was like a project I really, really didn't want to do. It's like, I'm going to charge this
I love
crazy
that.
amount.
That's so
And if
real.
they say yes, they'll say yes.
Yeah.
And so those were the only times
Hey,
that would happen.
we all
So
do
low
it.
That's
key.
so
We all
real.
do it, 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I call that the boredom tax.
Yeah.
This is something I'm going to be bored by. So there's an extra 40% tax or something. Yeah.
So
Dude, that's so funny.
what changed for you, Hunter, from going to a place of feeling like, oh, scarcity, like I have to, get the lowest amount just for them to say yes, to where you're at now? Like, what did that transition look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's pretty recent. Like, we had a really good year in 2023, and that was just so unsustainable. Like, it was like just running mad, and like,
Monetarily a record year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mental health, physical health, all.
Yeah.
of
One of
that.
our
Record
worst.
low.
Yeah.
Numbers,
at
revenue
what
was way up,
cost?
but how
Yeah.
much you enjoyed the year was
Yeah.
like,
the worst.
we
year.
don't want to
Yeah.
do that again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, yeah, it was during the mastermind, just like learning the systems and just like starting to change from trading your time for money to trading your time or your value. What is it? Value
Yeah,
for
your
Yeah.
value for
Yeah.
money, right?
And like that was the biggest like light bulb for me, because it was like, oh yeah, there's like such a value to this stuff, and it's just about like positioning yourself and like kind of explaining it. Because if you could just go into, which I found a lot of the time was, would go into the whole client journey, they would reach out to me and I would like just be your videographer, and that's it. Like, I'm not gonna do, that's all. I'm coming and I'm shooting and I'm leaving. Like
Yeah.
that was it. And then I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I don't really have much value besides that one thing to give you. But then realizing like, oh no, I have the skills to be able to start adding value and like the pre-production process, scripting, planning, and then the
Yeah.
post-production with like strategy of how you want to use this
Yeah,
content.
more
where you
producing
wanna do it.
overall, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was like the light bulb in the mastermind. It was just like, oh yeah, there's so much value here, and I should be charging for this.
Yeah.
And so it was just more confidence going into sales pitches, being able to talk through those things. And I feel like we've like been a really good team on sales calls when we're like going back and forth and being able to jump off each other.
That's awesome. Yeah. Mikaela, how do you view the difference between, because obviously you were a part of the business before you were full-time with the business, the difference of like pricing and also the difference of like your clients respecting you back then versus now? Like, has there been a transition of how you guys feel when it comes to that pricing, like all that stuff?
Yeah, I think, even though Hunter was an independent contractor since 2019, that's really what he was. He wasn't really a business owner. He didn't have that energy going into projects. It was like, oh, you're coming to me. So we didn't really do any outreach. You're coming to me. So I'm your employee,
Which
for
is
this
amazing
set amount of time.
to set up that type. Like,
yeah, it really was. And
that's
I'm
amazing.
so grateful. And we've had so many amazing clients from that who
Yeah.
are recurring, who will do projects with a few times a year.
Yeah.
We just did that this last weekend. But yeah, it was still that energy of like, oh, I'm gonna be your employee for like a week,
Of course,
or whatever.
of course, yeah. Well, I'm just gonna show up on set, and like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's the only job I'm
Rather
value I'm
than
giving.
now, it's a partnership where we're like, oh, you're hiring us for our expertise in this entire. Like now we
Yeah.
see the package, we see the pre-production, we see the value that brings, we see the production, we see post-production, we see the entire client journey now, and like
Yeah.
the value that we bring to that, and the problems that we solve there.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest.
Do you guys feel like you get price checked a lot less now that you price like that and how you approach conversations on a sales call?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's weeding out a lot of the clients we actually don't really want to work with.
Yeah.
And the ones that we just are like stoked about, and we're doing those like value-based like budgets and stuff, they are stoked about it, and they're like, yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
It's awesome.
Something that a commentary on a different subject that really fits for this, that's been like so convicting for me lately, is even though we were operating more out of a scarcity the last few years in our business, it's not that we were. It was we had so much abundance, but it was stuff that we didn't want. It was like jobs that we didn't want.
Yeah.
All of this stuff that was filling up our time and our mind and our energy and all the things. So I think now we're in this process of weeding out things that we don't want so that we can bring in abundance that we do want of clients or projects, different things like that. So
Yeah.
that's been like a really fun transition.
I love
Yeah,
that.
that's
I love
awesome.
that. And what are you guys doing a month right now? What's your run rate at right now when it comes to the business?
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to it, but it was literally the same month we did the mastermind. It literally went from like probably, I would say, 4 to 6K a month, right?
No, I
No?
mean, we were doing
You guys
on
were
average like 2023, if we were just looking at our business revenue, tax season.
Yeah. Love it.
We did like just about 6 figures in 2023. 2024 was 130, and most of that was like 75-80% of that was the last half of like really when I jumped in. And like January was, if we look at January 2025 to January 2024, we did like 14K last month, and January 2024 was 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
7.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
You guys have had like a 20K month. I remember that was coming
Yeah.
out of the mastermind, right? You guys had
Yeah.
your first ever 20K month, which
So
is
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. It was
So, yeah, you guys have practically doubled the business size, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And do you feel less stressed now than you did back in 2023?
Way less stress.
So why
Yeah.
is that?
So good.
How did you
So
structure
cool.
your business differently, or your time, or whatever it is? Like, why does it feel like you're making way more money but you're way less stressed? What is that?
I mean, it's multifaceted, but it's a lot of it is like having the structures in place. I think, the entire time we've been doing this company, it was very just like fly by the seat of your pants, try and figure it out. And like no systems, no structures, no really like education of like trying to get better. It was just like focusing on surviving. Yeah. And like once we started like prioritizing those things, it literally just was like an instant change where it was just like, oh, I see it now. And it literally doubled, I think, right when we put those systems and structure and that education in place. Doubled the revenue like that.
Yeah.
It was really great.
And you guys started jumping into like the retainer style model. I'm
Yeah.
sure that the stressful year was probably a lot of one-offs too, because
Yeah.
that tends to stress people out. I know that stresses me out. Talk about building a retainer style business. Like what has that done for you guys? How has that been helpful for you? How can someone else do something like that?
Well, Hunter's been in the industry for a while, and he's had a lot of recurring clients. So I think what's really with one client in particular, he was what should have been a retainer last year. He created a retainer with them this year, which is great. Monthly retainer.
Yep.
That is hugely valuable for us and for them. Time efficiency wise, all of the things. So just us being able to build that trust with them and then communicate the value add of being on a retainer model rather than an hourly model has been huge. And from there, anytime a client comes back to us, we just offer. We're like, hey, like, have you thought about doing this? Or we see these, we see all of this other stuff that we could be doing for you. Would you be open to discussing a more retainer type model? And everyone's open to it.
It works great for like returning clients, but also like inbound clients. You do
Yeah.
the one-off, and then once you finish that project, it's like the client journey of like, oh, the next step isn't just like paid and you're out the door. It's like, what can we do now? Can we get on like a monthly or quarterly?
Yeah, exploring new stuff. This is one of the things that I thought when I was first starting. I thought retainers were only a win for me and not a win for the company I was working with. And that is not true, right?
No.
You just had said it, Mikaela. You're like, the best part about your retainer relationships, especially the one that you guys have just created this year, you're like, it's a win for us and it's a win for them. And so my question is, for everybody listening who still might be in the headspace of what I was in years ago, where I was like, it's just a win for me, it feels selfish. And that probably stopped me from pitching it. Made me kind of nervous because I felt like it was like a bad deal for the brand. Why is a retainer for a client of yours actually advantageous to not only you, but to them?
That's a good question. You want me to go for it?
Sure.
The first thing that I thought of is that it's way more financially efficient for them. The work that we're doing for our client right now that we started a retainer with this year, we're doing the work of they're not having to pay us as an employee. They're paying us as a contractor. So we're doing the work of somebody who could be an employee, but not as one. So that's huge for them. And then also they can count on content being put out. We're a part of the process of all the pre-production process of, hey, what's going on with content throughout the months. They can really plan on having a long-term relationship with you and seeing how that's going to scale with a lot of confidence rather than kind of flying by the seat of their pants,
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's a big one. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think that's huge for them. Like it's changing their like if you look at like how much you would pay someone in a retainer model, like it usually comes out to less than what they would pay like a full-time employee, and
Majorly.
you're giving them way more
Majorly.
value than like a part-time, even full-time employee would give them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you're taking so much off their plate.
Yes.
We're taking so much off their plate, especially marketing. It's just it's such a thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cuts out so much.
For anybody listening, I think you guys are a great example of this. One of the best things you can do to position a company like yours, like a video agency, a content agency, is to go, how do we accomplish what somewhat of a full-time employee could accomplish in a year? How do we accomplish that in way less time? Because we're really strategic. We've got great systems. There's a couple of us, so we're really fast and efficient. And then how do we do it for less? And it's just such a good win-win because you guys get really consistent work and a great relationship out of it. They get awesome, consistent content, and they get it for a price that's cost-effective, right? Which is really cool. So if you're not working in a retainer model right now, guys, and you want to be, if you're in the commercial space, take some notes from these guys because you guys are a great example of that, which is really cool. How do you price retainers? This is a big question. Let's sneak back into the whole pricing conversation because when we first met, you were very much going, yeah, here's my day rate. A lot of people would be thinking, when I think about a pricing conversation, I'm looking, how many days is that going to take me? And they start adding up their day rates when they're trying to figure out a retainer. And is that how you guys do it? Do you guys do it differently now? You talked a lot about value-based pricing. What is value-based pricing to you guys, and how does it relate to like pricing something like a retainer or pricing just anything? Like, let's break down how you guys are doing that now because I think it's a big shift from how you were doing that.
Yeah. Do you want to get it, or you want me to?
Yeah, you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it is. It's like more changing it to more deliverable based and like what you're getting out of this relationship rather than like the amount of time I'm on set, and then switching the narrative of the time that you're giving them to be like, I'm only going to be here for like 2 hours, and
That's
like
the best.
Yeah,
I don't
and
have to
it's
be in your
good for
hair
you.
for very long.
Yes.
Like this is going to be good for
Yes.
you, not just me.
It's a
I
huge
love
point.
that.
That's like changing that perspective again, and like people can really like they love that because they're busy, they're doing stuff, so they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like thinking that I have to like get rid of a whole day, 8 hours of where I could be doing other things, and then it's just 2 hours and I can be done with it. That's a huge win for them.
Yeah. I'll pay more for the speed
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
than like I'm
right.
paying more
That's
for your time.
That's a very
Efficiency's
important thing.
huge.
And when you're charging for your time, you're not thinking like that because you're going, how do I somewhat like milk this in a way where
100%.
I'm gonna be able to rack up an invoice because I charge for my time, right?
Yeah.
But now you're going, no, if I can get this done in 2 hours and I can, catch 8, 7, 10 grand off this client getting the shot, and it's gonna be a great value add for them because they get to go back, especially working with a lot of people in the Bay. Like these people are running companies, their time is expensive. So flipping the time parallel on its head and not going, hey, it's gonna cost me this many hours, so here's my rate. But you're going, no, because it only is going to take me an hour or 2 hours, or the shoot's only going to be 4 in and out, that is actually more valuable. And that is a huge switch when it comes to the pricing world. That's awesome.
Less time having to pay models, location fees, like
everything.
all of
It's
that.
better for
It's actually
everybody.
it always, anytime we talk about pricing hourly versus pricing for your value, it always blows my mind because when you really think about it, it makes way more sense to price off of value. It totally does. So the rest of the world is like, pay for speed, and that's what you want to do. So I love that, you guys. Let's talk about when it comes to offers, what you're selling to people. What are you finding that's like hot offers that you're able to just sell quickly and that you're able to be like, oh, people are eating this up right now? Like, what are people paying you guys for that you're like, this, I wish I would have known that I could sell this 2 years ago, or that I would sell more of this now?
Yeah. Since we really do brand ourselves as storytellers, that's what we really love to do in the industries in which we work with, whether it's startups in the Bay or wineries. Like, story is so valuable for those industries. So we saw right after the mastermind, when you guys released the pin post course, we were like, whoa, this is everything. This is how you share your story in a way that is going to help you scale your business. And it's done that for us. And I think what really my mindset has been like, hey, what's worked for us in growing our business, and how can I offer that to others?
Love that.
So pin post has been total thing, and pin post is such a fun package for us to offer right now, because it really does flow into retainers.
Yes, for
so
sure.
much
Perfect
trust
on-ramp.
gets built there, and it really is. It's like, hey, like, let's get you these incredibly high converting pin posts that you can put on your social medias accounts. So many of those videos, all of them can also live in many other places.
On web, exactly. Email footers.
Yeah, and they're really evergreen too. Like, they don't need to change very much throughout the years. And then from there, we'll offer social media retainer, that kind of stuff.
I love that.
Brilliant.
That's so good.
Brilliant.
It's been really fun.
Yeah, the pin posts are great, and they're
massive.
so utilizing those and like giving the origin story, giving what you do, giving a case study. Like, it hits all of the markers of what someone needs to hear before they buy. And so, yes, having it for your own business, but then packaging that up and selling it to other people, like, brilliant, you guys. Like, we just did a pin post job last month, and it was just great.
Super fun, because
It's
it's also like so fun to see how much it clicks in a client's head. They're like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. I actually feel like my story's coming to life here. And it's
Yeah.
being told in a way that's effective, beautiful, and as you said, evergreen. I'm not going to have to redo this next week, right? Because that's the problem with a lot of social content is brands are hesitant to often opt into paying for social, because one of the downsides is a lot of time it has so much turnover. It's gone. It was on the feed for hopefully 6 hours. Some people saw it, and then it gets buried, right? So the beauty of the pin post is a way for people to come to your socials and see these evergreen pieces of content that can explain multiple different things. But we vouch, and I'm sure you guys do this as well, like origin story, what you do post, and case study type stuff. Are you guys helping script those for clients as well?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're like start to finish, come to us. We are going to walk you through the whole process, and you will have beautiful pin posts up on your accounts.
What are you typically charging for a set of pin posts? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah. Around 4,000 for the package.
Amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Amazing.
great.
And it's like you said, it's a great runway to retainers for like a monthly content retainer. So what would a monthly content retainer look like for you guys right now? Because I know you said that that's also something that you're seeing is really valuable to clients.
Yeah.
What would that on ramp into an social monthly retainer look like?
Or a range or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, range
Because I'm sure, depending on how many posts they want.
It kind of all depends. And again, it's like so industry specific. I would say, like, we're really heavy hitting the wine industry right now, because it's just like the best industry.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh gosh, yeah. Family run companies are just so sick.
There's a lot of story in wine companies.
There's
too.
so much story. It's so rich, and it's so valuable for those people to be sharing their stories, because wine lovers love to be a part of the journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll do like $4,000 package and a lot of times too, like if someone's like, oh no, I just want to like go in on the retainer, we'll work the pin posts into the retainer too.
Smart.
That's cool.
Rather than just like doing that as a jumping off point. But with one client that we're working with right now, that's what we're doing. We're like working a bunch of longer form videos into a retainer. It's going to be like a 6 to 9 month retainer. It's longer, but we already have a pretty established relationship with them, and that'll run at like 2 or 3. What did we do? $32.50.
Yeah, that's
month.
great.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
That's
yeah.
great.
So
So
we'll do,
good,
like,
you guys.
longer form, and then really not a ton of filler social media content, but just enough to share what they need to share.
It's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then there's always upsells there if you want to break down
Exactly.
that longer form stuff and create more
Exactly.
every single month. That's awesome. You think about how quickly a company can scale, like you guys,
Yeah.
if you just start going, oh, if I just add every new like winery we add or wine business or tech business that we add on that offer is going to be an extra $32.50 a month. It's like every 3 of those you add is like an extra like 10 grand a month. You know, it's like, that's crazy, you know?
And it's like maybe 2 days out of your month.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. But it's
This
mega
is why you're
value.
less stressed.
It's a lot of
It's so
value, right? It's a
true.
lot of value
It's
for the
so
client,
much value.
which is so
Yeah.
cool.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
great.
So
It's really cool.
why don't we talk about how you guys actually ended up coming together in full-time work? You guys were married. Hunter had been doing this. You're like in the business part-time, jumping in when you can. When did you know it was time to quit your job? What did that season look like? Because that's a big decision that a lot of people weigh.
Yeah.
And some people weigh it for so long they never end up doing it. You made the jump. So what did that jump feel like? And then how did you figure out that decision?
Yeah, I think for us it was okay, we've been married almost 7 years. We are looking to expand our family. You know, you start thinking about all of that. Like, okay, what kind of experience do I want to have as a mother? You know?
Yeah.
All of those things. And at the time I was working 50 hours a week. And I was like, this is unsustainable. I cannot be a mother and do that. I could. People do it, but I don't want it.
Yeah.
I want something else. And I definitely have shiny object syndrome, so I've tried many things.
What are a few things you've tried?
A lot of things. I sold, what was my first venture? I've had many
Macrame,
ventures.
right?
My macrame venture.
Yeah.
Let's
That was
go.
very
Like art,
successful.
Let's go. That's
markets
awesome.
and stuff.
Yeah, it was very successful. Who knows? Maybe I'll do that again.
Yeah. Maybe I'll jump
My little
back in.
side thing. I was a birth doula for a while.
Wow.
I've nannied forever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that I did in the Bay. And
Barista.
many things. I was a barista forever.
Yeah.
A lot of industry stuff.
Yeah.
But I've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm constantly thinking of different businesses I want to run, or I walk into a business and I'm like, this could be done so much better.
Yeah. You know? And that's now what you do.
It is.
You
It
literally
totally
now
is.
Get to
go
solve
and
those
help
problems, fill
businesses.
those gaps.
Exactly. So then thinking
Yeah.
of that, I'm like, we complement each other so well. Our strengths and our weaknesses, all of that stuff. She's so big picture, and I'm so much more minute in the details, and it just works really well. And so, yeah, here we are, full time.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and it felt really good. I think we set ourselves up. There's been times where I've gone full time into something and was not ready to do it.
Mhm.
And then financially you get so stressed, and how can you be creative, or do you
Yeah.
want to put yourself out
Yeah.
there when you're
Yeah.
in that position? So
I think you did that a little bit with like joining Sweet Spot. A couple of times you're like, I want to, but it doesn't feel like we're ready to be able to do that.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it was ready. So for anyone who's thinking of going full time, I would just say set yourself up so that you can actually do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been great. So I was really excited once we went full on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you said you're more in the details of things. Let's talk about some of like the systems that you guys have put in place that have really helped you operate as a team, operate the business. What have been some really helpful things that you wish you would have known that you do now that's really helpful?
Yeah, I think, a lot. We're definitely more digitally organized. We see our client journey, and we will move our clients along that journey as they reach each step. So we're both on the same page, because a lot can be housed up in this brain, but
Yeah.
it's
get
just
it out,
such a
get it
great
somewhere.
get it out,
Yeah.
get it somewhere, and then also to be able to communicate really clearly with one another of where clients are at, since we kind of share. We have pretty like set job descriptions, I would say, within the
Yep.
business, but we do help each other out once in a while. So with those tasks, so we'll just move them along so we can stay on the same page, and then clients don't get, dropped or
Yeah.
emails don't get missed, that kind
Oh yeah,
of stuff.
so many leads would just like fall through the cracks, where it's just like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you don't have the systems in place and like
Yeah. So
having the
that's just been the biggest thing, I think.
What software are you using?
Yeah. What do you guys use to manage?
we like to use Trello just to
Yeah,
like,
we
kinda
use
have
Trello for the client
a
journey,
nice
for
little.
sure.
I love the dragon.
Nice little
It's
board.
super,
Yeah,
it's super
They're
simple.
moving them
You can
along.
literally
Right,
move them
yeah.
along.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's been really helpful. And then we use Notion for some stuff. I need to like really just.
Joey's
do
making me
Notion.
switch to Notion
Okay.
right now. Right
I have
right
so
now,
much
literally. I had to
resistance towards
re-update the app on our way here. We're going
Yeah.
into Notion.
Yeah, we've
That's
been in
great.
like
We'll
ClickUp
see.
and like the G Suite forever.
Yes.
And we've had people lots of friends and then some people that work with us here at Creative Rise who are like huge Notion people, and they've been trying to get us on Notion for years, and we've like, no, we tried it like 5 years ago, but it was so ugly and so
Yeah,
hard
it was
to
real
use.
ugly.
I was like, no.
Still a
But I
little
think it's
ugly,
come a,
but
I think
it's
it's come a long way in the last couple
you
years.
had to
So
be like a low-key software engineer to use Notion. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
there are
pretty-
platforms like that.
yeah,
that's-
there's a lot you can do, but I'm like all in on it now. The last like 2
Yeah.
days, I've been like, dude, I'm getting all into
Loving
Notion.
it.
That's
Okay, so you guys got Trello, Notion. Anything
Yeah.
else that's
Yeah.
noteworthy that you feel like, oh, people should check this out? It would really help them.
I feel like we're really like,
We love.
we need to get our things together a little bit when it comes to like, yeah. So I feel like those are the two. What
Yeah.
other?
I
Any
mean, just
other ideas?
the whole Google.
Yeah,
G Suite, everything in
all
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Google Cal, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
sweet.
That's great. That's really
Yeah.
great.
I love that. So, just jumping back to the conversation we were just having about you jumping in, the one thing I did want to revisit was you said you got to make sure it was the right time for you before you jumped in. What describes the right time to go full time? Like you said, you've got to get some ducks in a row before you make that jump.
Yeah.
So, what were those ducks that you kind of had to get in a row for you? For someone who might be listening, going, I really want to go full time. What should I look to line up before I make that jump?
Well, I think you guys can remember me literally never sitting down during
I do remember that.
during mastermind calls. And so I think the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that question, Joey, is like, okay, when is all the things that I'm doing too much, and when can, and it really was at that point, and I knew it. And so, but yeah, I think revenue was a huge thing. Like, okay, how can we don't necessarily need to be matching the revenue that I'm bringing in and the business is bringing in order for me to feel comfortable switching over, but just like, when are we basically like losing money because
Absolutely.
I'm giving
That's it right
50
there.
hours a week to
That's it,
another
yeah.
job?
Yeah.
So we hit that point.
Yeah,
And
at
then
some
some.
point it costs
Yes.
you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it
absolutely.
does.
What
totally
you're
does.
referring to is every time we'd get on our mastermind calls, you'd be like, Hunter would be like in an office somewhere. You'd be on like your phone in a
Walking
cab,
through
walking
San
through the
Francisco,
city.
and it's like,
You're walking through a park, and you're doing all these other things with all the other commitments you already
Yes.
had. And you're
Yeah.
saying at some point you realized these other things are great, but they're now costing me more money,
Yeah.
or even just fulfillment, enjoyment
Yeah.
from what I could be doing jumping in full time, like full time with Hunter and Sweet
Yeah,
Spot. So
most
Yeah.
definitely. And I
you hit
didn't
that point,
necessarily
yeah.
feel like 100% equipped to do it. There's totally risk involved,
Mm.
but just you just have to hit a certain
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome, you guys. How do you guys split up tasks? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think kind of going off what Mikaela was talking about how we are just wired differently and like what our strengths are, like with her being more focused on like the minute stuff and like getting like the structures in place and like making sure that everything is moving along, and me more being on like very like head in the clouds kind of, which can be great and can be bad too. But so we just kind of like decided to like divvy up the tasks that kind of would more fit my strengths and more fit her strengths, and go from there.
Yeah. So Hunter's more production day director, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
He's totally along like the journey with the client.
Yeah, but that's when
Before
he's
then,
like
but-
dialed in.
Yeah.
It's your sweet spot.
That's
Yeah,
his
there you
sweet
go.
spot. That and then editing everything. I don't touch a single software.
Yes.
Oh, must that be nice? Eh?
Not a
Yeah,
single one. And then I am much more client focused, from initial outreach to sales call to day on shoot. I am like schmoozer producer.
Love it.
Tell me about your kids. all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he can really like be there, and we've gotten so much great feedback from that. Like people really feel our warmth and our customer service on set.
Cool.
You know, because there's
great.
space for that now. Where Hunter's great, and he's mosquitoes. But you know, when you're one guy on a shoot, it's
Yeah,
just
there's only so much.
there's
you can do.
only so much you can do. So
Yeah.
that's been a huge value add too, and just an I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
and I
that'd
think
be-
like that whole like the partnership has been like for our clients. It's like the whole goal is that your client gets the best thing that they can possibly receive from you, you know. And like you were kind of saying, like when I was by myself, it was just like I have to sacrifice something, and whether that like ruins the customer's experience. And so I think that was a big piece of you joining was like, well, this is like a necessary thing. Like we need to do this, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a
So
great
if you're
point.
listening and you have a significant other or spouse that's detail-oriented, entrepreneurial, and great with people, hire them. Do whatever you
Or
do.
tell us
Hire
about them
them.
because we'll hire them.
Yeah.
Or we will hire
Or maybe
them.
you guys
Yeah.
can
They,
hire
they
them.
gotta get hired.
Yeah.
That's
We
so
also
cool,
will.
you guys.
I love that.
Well, so you guys jumped into the last round of the mastermind, which was awesome. You guys are incredible in that. Such a huge add to the community. What made you guys want to jump in the first place?
Hunter did not.
Wait, why don't we start
Let's go,
there?
Hunter.
Why,
Let's
why
go.
did you not? Because
Yeah,
that's a
talk
really
about that.
honest and great
Sorry
question.
to call you up.
No, yeah,
It's
okay.
really relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was completely financial hesitation. Just like I can't invest in this because we're struggling to get money in. So like we need to like do all the things like pay the bills and like live. And I was like, I don't know if we can afford something like that.
Yeah.
And then I mean, Mikaela is just really good at like showing me again
Great at scales.
the value. So it was
Great
kind
at
of that
sales.
whole thing where like she talked about earlier, where it was just we're losing money in the long run because you're going to be killing yourself running these same months where you're just
Yeah.
like going at your
It's not
wits
sustainable.
end, and it's not sustainable. So
Yeah.
I think that was like we had a couple like just like conversations about it, and like she like painted it out, and I think I was also just like hesitant to even like think about investing in something, so I didn't really even like look into the details of the mastermind or anything. And once like she like laid it all out for me, I'm like, oh, actually this makes a lot of sense. And like from the case studies of like people before who've done the mastermind and finally listening to the podcast and stuff and listening to like people's success stories, I was like, it seems like pretty much like a guarantee that this will benefit our business. So I definitely came around.
You've got a return on investment?
Oh yeah, well we got a return on investment like week 1 of the mastermind.
Well, so two things I think is important. Number one, I think it's important to be cautious anytime you look at investing in anything. So while you're like, let's run into the fire, and he's like, let's look at
Another
the
way that
fire.
we complement
It's
each
a
other.
great
Yes, it is a
skill.
great way.
We're very much like that in different ways too. Like we flip flop, where
we
she's
do.
like hitting the brakes or I'm hitting the brakes or gas or whatever. But two things. So that's a good thing. Anytime we invest, I mean, you're working hard for your money, right?
Yes.
It's like you're out here grinding, working hard for the money.
You're out there in the editing programs.
Yeah. Like Premier's crashed 10 times that night, and she's trying to talk to you about, well, we should go invest it, So that's going to be so relatable for somebody who listens to this, who's like editing right now and Premiere just keeps quitting. But that's really important. Like, it's important to really look at something before you put your hard-earned money into it and go, what is my ROI? Like, and I'm super glad you guys asked that question when you looked at it. And then the second thing that you said I think is brilliant, and I think this is something it took me too long to figure out as well, that I'm very glad I figured out years ago, because I've seen a lot of benefits from this in our own lives, and you as well. But you do have to start asking yourself the question, like, well, if I don't make this decision, what changes? And am I okay with that? And that's a really, really important thing you said, Hunter, there. So ROI, you just said like you got an ROI in the first week. What has the ROI been like? It's just under $3,000 for the mastermind. What's the ROI been like for you guys?
I mean, it's been tenfold. I mean, there's been, I think it was because we were like, all right, if we're gonna invest in this, like we're gonna just dive 100 feet in and like we're gonna do it. And so I think immediately we just started implementing all the things that you guys were teaching us in the mastermind, and like it was again like immediately where it was just like, oh yeah, duh, we should be doing all these things. It was pretty like stuff that like it makes just so much sense when you hear it, but you just don't do it for some reason. And it's just
Or
like
you just need to hear it another way.
Yeah.
Or sure, you can hear it, but then how?
Right.
And I
implementation.
think that's what you guys do really well
Yeah.
within the mastermind is you're like, this is the thing you should be doing, and this is how you do it. And like, let's do it together,
Yeah, there's like 30 of us doing it
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the accountability level, but also just how, because it can feel, again, being a creator can feel so isolating. And so
Absolutely.
having that feedback and the support and all that is actually invaluable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would like during the calls, you'd have just so many ideas pop in your head, and then you would like break out and like with other people who are also on the call, and then you guys are all just like crazy ideas. We got all these things we're gonna do, and then like after the call, me and Mikaela would have the same conversation where we're just like implementing and being like,
Immediate implementation. And knowing like we started the mastermind mid-September, and by the end of October, I had quit my job because I used that time like, okay, this is my job, is implementing all of these things.
That's
so
really
that
cool.
once I quit, it's set up and we can go.
It's awesome.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. What I love about what you just said is you clearly just said that my job is to actually build my own business. And a lot of the times as creatives, you might have felt this, Hunter, over the years. I've definitely felt this. You get so caught up in the rat race of just getting client projects done that you actually fully neglect your own business, and you stop building systems, you stop marketing, you stop selling, you stop innovating on what you're doing. And what I heard you just say, Mikaela, is you're like, no, I jumped in and like our business, Sweet Spot Films, was my client, and I had to like build all that stuff. And you're now seeing the fruits of that. You guys had a 20K month, you've doubled the business size, on your way to your first multi-six-figure year. Like, how cool. So cool. What was, last question we'll ask here on this, because I think this is awesome for people to hear. What was like one or two things from the mastermind that you just talked about implementing that you think has been the most valuable for you?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because it was all so valuable. I mean, oh my gosh, why was
Big
that
question.
a difficult question?
I can go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go for
You
it.
I mean,
you
again, yeah, like she said, there's so many things. I think the one that really sticks out to me is the like pitching, the being able to like have someone like you guys tell us how to like go through that process, because it's so daunting to be like, I don't want to like sell my stuff. Like I get a little like they're not gonna want my services or anything, but like that was probably the biggest value for me, was like that, like pitching clients and like shifting your mindset to that value based.
Yeah, problem solver.
Yeah.
Problem solver. That was the
huge.
big one. I
Problem
remember
solver
that
is
would click like
huge.
early. I was like, oh yeah, we're a
Yeah.
problem solver, and that's what makes you money, is being a problem solver.
And then
Yeah.
from there, it's still practice.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a
you get
muscle.
so good at, I feel like even from a few months ago, I'm such a better problem solver and I'm more confident. You can really position yourself in your business when you're like, hey, I'm here to solve your problems.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's
Yes.
do it. Let's partner together.
It's awesome.
I would say building the core offers too was huge. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what? How do you even do that? What
Yeah.
even is that? Can I do that? I don't have to wait for someone to tell me what they need.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
right.
a huge
I
switch.
can
Let's
actually-
touch
That's
on
a
that
huge
for a
switch,
second, because I was going to ask you about that earlier, but we kind of just kept on going. I forgot about it. One of the biggest shifts from being a reactive business versus being a proactive business, where you go out, pitch yourself, you find clients, is actually having something to sell, right? Like, it's hard to be proactive when you're used to just like doing whatever somebody asks you to do. So what was the shift like for you guys, and maybe what do a couple of your core offers look like right now? What was the shift going from we do everything somebody wants us to do now shifting to no, we've got core offers that we are experts on, and if you hire us, you're getting the best in the game to help you solve this problem? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I feel like the pin posts, again, I'm just going to go back to
Yeah,
it.
it's a
It's
core
a
offer.
huge problem solver. That's turned into a core offer initially. And a core offer that we still have is like headlining videos, that kind of stuff for websites. That's huge. What else? And like those, I guess, were our
I
two
think
big ones.
The big one that, again, it was one of those, I forget which week that was, but it was the building your core offer, and it was, we did like a one-on-one with you guys, and it was talking about like what we do currently, what works well, and like building that to really just be a huge value for our customers. And it was when we had a lot of clients coming in for like just headline video, we just want that, nothing else. And it was basically creating that like funnel, the sales funnel of like, yeah, they come in here and you do your like one-off video, and you then like right after that finishes up, you get them on a social retainer, doing the pin post, and like it just like flowed so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's so good,
So
you guys.
you've got like headlining films, you've got pin posts, you've got social content retainers. The beauty is you don't really need anything else. Like it's simple scales. We talk about that in the mastermind, and that's a beautiful little set of core offers there, because they kind of funnel each other, as you said, Hunter. Like you can walk a client down that funnel, and it's a beautiful customer journey.
Yeah.
Not only for you guys, because it's great revenue wise for you guys, but it's also phenomenal for the client, because you're solving a couple different problems in different parts of their own funnel, right? Helping them with a headlining film, which is actually more like end of funnel for them. That's what someone's going to see and going to be like, yeah, these are our guys. We're committing. We want to go with this partner in whatever type of business they're in. And then you've got like the pin post, which is more middle funnel, right? When someone finally discovers them. And then you've got the social content, which is like top of funnel stuff, helping people discover their new winery or whatever, right? Like you guys are helping basically flip that and build out funnels for people, which is amazing. Concept funnels,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So
Yeah.
so cool. It doesn't have to be complex. You don't need to offer 1,000 things. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
Hunter, but I remember offering when I
I'd do
was like
everything. Whatever
20,
anyone
15,
asks,
dude,
I
I
would
was
do
like,
it.
dude,
Here's
I
the
can
hourly
shoot,
rate. I'll
I can
be
shoot
there.
you giving birth. I can shoot you getting married. I can shoot you skiing. I was like, I can do anything, and it's like, well, that's definitely an approach. It is not the most efficient approach, and it often creates just chaos, or maybe a job you didn't want to do, or seeing something you didn't want to see.
Yeah.
I've been there. Anyways,
Did you film a birth?
No, but he filmed
no,
another
but I
crazy
filmed
thing.
some
It
other
was just-
stuff with women's health in that area.
was
and
wild.
Oh, goodness.
yeah,
Wild.
that's a story. That's a
Story for another
That's a-
day.
And
Story
actually,
for
I've
another
talked
day.
about it lightly on the podcast, but
Yeah.
we're about to go home and eat some steaks.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys the
Alright, sounds
story.
good.
as we're
Maybe
eating
after we
dinner.
eat. Yeah, that would be good. Okay, final 2 questions. Where can people find you guys if they want to follow along with your journey? Where can they find you guys?
Yeah, so Sweet Spot Film Co. Instagram, also for our website, sweetspotfilm.co. Yeah, those are kind of like
Cool.
where we're at.
That's where we live.
Yeah.
That's great. And
where
then
I
final question, kind of signature question. Why is it worth it? Like, why is it worth it to go through the struggle of building your own business, doing this? What's the why behind it for you guys?
It's a really good question. I think, since we're, married and a family, I think having the freedom to be able to create a life together and have freedom over your time and also just build something together is so fun and beautiful, and really, I think why the 2 of us were brought together. And so now that we're doing that, it's really cool. Yeah, I feel really blessed.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
This is a little bonus question, but we'll truly wrap up with this. But what have you learned about marriage from working together and being full time?
We are not adversaries. We are teammates.
Yes.
That's good.
All
We're
the
not
time.
enemies.
Yeah. All
I
the
love that.
time. We're
I mean,
teammates. We
yeah.
have the same goal.
It has that adversary thing. It like works for business and also just personal life.
Yeah.
Like it's like when
Yeah.
struggles come up in the business and you can say your opinion and like work through it and like get to the end and get to the positive outcome. Same thing in like personal life. If you like have a personal like conflict or anything, you can just like you're building that muscle like constantly. Like a lot of people like they go into their job 8 hours and they kind of like it's almost a switch off from like their family life. But like with us, it's
They
like
check out.
yeah. And so with us, it's like we're always building that muscle of just like building together and like
Yeah.
making each other the best person possible.
Yeah, gassing each other up all the
100%.
time.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. Just
That's great.
building a strong foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's so good.
We totally agree.
Yeah.
And we love that you guys are
Working
working
together
as a
is the
team.
best.
Yes. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's always easy, but it's
No.
the most
No.
rewarding thing.
Yeah.
And I actually think this could be a whole other podcast that we're getting into, but I actually think that working together forces you through marital challenges at such a fast pace that what you go through when you work together and own a company together and you're also married in a year is like 5 years of marriage.
Dog years.
Because
just
you're
in it.
forced to, you're with each other all day, every day. You're
Yeah.
forced to go through these conflicts and
Mhm.
these differences of opinion. Like
Yep.
it's such a beautiful thing if you submit to the process. And so proud of you
That's
guys.
great. You guys are a
super
great
proud of
example
you
of
guys
that.
for working together.
Thank you.
Really proud of you how you guys have just like complimented each other, grown Sweet Spot Films. Awesome job. Like
Yeah.
so cool. And thank
Thanks,
you for being on the
guys.
podcast. This has
Yes,
been so
thanks
fun.
for being here, you
Thanks for
guys.
having
This is
us.
awesome. Let's go cook some steak.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well, that was such a fun guest episode. Honestly, that
So
was
fun.
one of my favorites. I feel like just so many good like value things where I'm like, ooh, that's a clip right there. Like,
Mhm.
that's a clip.
We
what you
just love
said.
husband-wife teams too. It's
That
so
is
fun.
true. We
It's
are
so
biased.
relatable.
And those chairs were super comfy. So honestly, that was one of my
Shout out to
favorite,
Costco.
most comfortable episodes ever. Actually.
Yeah, shout out to Costco.
But you guys, if you are someone who's like, I want to go all in on my business in 2025, whether you're already all in and you're like Hunter and Mikaela, where you're like, hey, I'm actually already hitting a 6-figure run rate, and yet it feels like I'm working myself to the bone, or I'm in an industry I don't really want to be in, or I'm not working with the clients I want to be in. the mastermind might be a great fit for you. Or if you're someone who's just getting started and you want to, build your wedding business, build your brand business, build your social media management business, it also is meant for people like that as well. So it's one of those rare places where both levels of getting started are already being at a certain run rate. You're welcome in both areas. So that's awesome.
Well, it's
So
really helpful in both areas.
super
So
helpful
yeah,
in both
I
areas.
really love what Hunter said. I love his objection where he was like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't want to
so
spend
good.
the money. I think what he was objecting to is very common. And I think you should think about that when you're thinking about something like the mastermind. The mastermind's just shy of $3,000. So it's not a little amount of money, right? But it's also priced in a strategic way where we've gone, how do we make it like the same price as what most creatives spend on a camera, but it's going to get you such a big ROI, as you heard the Phillips talk about in this episode with Sweet Spot. It's doubled their business and it's only been about 7-8 months. So it's doubled their entire business size. They're on track to do multi six figures this year, which is amazing because of the things not only they learned in the mastermind, but most importantly, they've done a great job of actually implementing. So if you're someone who's like, I know that I need to carve out some time this year, even though I'm busy, to learn the things I know I need to learn, and then make sure that I get a community around me to help implement and coaches to do it. We're going to coach you through implementation so that you can double your business size ideally this year. Well, then the Creative Res Mastermind might be the fit for you. So a couple of things we're going to run through. If you're new here and you haven't heard a ton about the mastermind, week 1, we're going to talk all about your offers, creating bulletproof core offers, as you heard the Phillips talk about on this episode. That is a very, very important thing because your offers are your fuel to where your business is going to fly. If you don't have the right offers, you're not going to get where you want to go. So we're going to position your offers. We're going to price your offers in week 1. We're going to do all that stuff. Number 2, week 2, we're going to then learn how to brand all that stuff. How do we come up with the right words? What's it look like to brand these things properly so that your offers are clear, your brand's clear, your positioning in the market is clear, who you're trying to go after, your ideal client's clear. Week 3 is going to be all about networking. How do we increase the amount of times you can get in front of the right people so you can build the right type of connections and build the right type of business? Week 4 is now actually marketing those offers to those ideal clients. I'm going to show you a ton of different ways to do that in week 4. Week 4 is like really the bread and butter outside of probably the offers. Really, the bread and butter is learning how we drive leads in our own business, how all the other people that come to the mastermind learn how to drive leads, and how you can do it too, whether you're in the wedding space or the brand space, you're a social media manager, photographer, or filmmaker. Week 5 is then learning how to scale that stuff. What does it look like to scale our businesses properly in a way that's efficient and also is not going to lead to burnout? Because that's what week 6 is about. How do you do all of these things in a way where you do not burn out? So time management, anti-burnout stuff. We're going to talk all about that. So if any of those categories interest you, even just one of them, I promise you're going to get an ROI that's great enough on just one of those categories. It's going to be worth it for you. Now, you got to be the right person though. We're looking for people that are ready to grow in 2025. We're also looking for people that are team players and that are bought in on community. Community is a huge part of the 6-week Creative Res Mastermind. It's why it's not a course. It's why you can't just buy the course and go through it. Community is what helps you implement. And so that's a big part for us. So you got to be ready to grow, stoked on community. Number 3, you got to be ready to make a lot of change in your business. We're going to be getting our hands in your business. If you listen to the podcast every week, that's really cool because you're hearing what it looks like to get your ears on our businesses and how we can give you some insight into yours. But the mastermind is us literally getting in your business with you and fixing things, turning things around, giving you ideas for things, motivating you towards other things. So you got to also be super excited for that. And last but not least, you got to just be a fun person. You got to be stoked and fired up to get it going because your life and your business is going to look different after 6 weeks than it did before we start. So March 16th is when we're starting. We're taking 30 businesses and we are going to radically run through 6 weeks with those people the same way we did that with the Phillips here. And they've done a great job of executing on that. And that's why Sweet Spot Films is doubled its business size and in a totally different place, which is really cool. So if that is you and you're listening to this before March 2nd, you need to get on the wait list. The wait list is how you get early access to the application. And with early access comes some bonuses. You get a discount. You get a couple bonus courses that are about $1,000, just over $1,000 with a free value, which is awesome. And when you join the waitlist, you immediately actually get access to the sales call formula, which is $49. It's a really, really great mini course we built teaching you how to effectively run a sales call so you can close more deals. The second you join the waitlist, you're going to get early access to that, immediate access. Actually, you'll be able to start watching that today. But once you get early access, we're going to send you the application. You can apply and we can start looking through and making sure that we handpick the right people that this is going to be the best fit for, which is so exciting. So if you have any questions, DM us about it. We'd love to hear from you because, we really want to make sure this is the right fit for you. We always get a ton of applications. What do we get, like 90 last time.
No, we broke 100.
Over 100 applications for 30
applications.
spots. And so it's really important to us that you do apply so we can make sure we can tell you whether or not this is a good fit for you and if it's going to be the right vehicle to help you grow your business this year.
Yeah.
With all that being said, guys, we're super excited. Go to creativehouse.com or go to the show notes. You'll find everything there. That's after March 2nd. Applications might be open season, baby.
Yeah.
You can just go to the website and check it on out. You might be able to hit the application there. But if you love this episode, guys, first things first, implement on what you love. Actually do something about what you heard the Phillips say that was impactful for you. Second, share it with a friend. Share it with somebody you know that might need some of the value they were talking about in today's episode. And last but not least, hit subscribe on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. Follow the show. That way every single week you get notified when we come out with more free value for you every single week. Because that's what this podcast is about. So other than that, I think that's a wrap, guys. Super fun episode. We will catch you next week.